Unsolved murders.
This is somebody that suffers extensive torture.
Devastating violence with no one to blame.
I absolutely did not do it.
How do you solve a crime with no known suspects? Can you reveal the face of evil? A scale exists to measure the darkest corners of human behavior. From impulse killings to madness-fueled violence. Calculated acts of cruelty, torture, and brutality. Forensics now reveals those among us who are most evil. Unsolved murders, mysteries that inspire fear. The lipstick killer terrorizes Chicago in the 1940s and dismembers a 6-year-old girl. Did the police arrest the right man? The legend of the Black Dahlia murder starts with Elizabeth Short's bisected corpse. Will the identity of these killers ever be revealed? Could the discovery solve other crimes? Fort Worth, Texas. A body is found at an abandoned warehouse. 10 years later, a detective still hunts for the murderer. Now there is a scale with 22 levels that decodes a killer's motive, method, and mind. The more heinous the crime, and the more rational the perpetrator, the higher the criminal is placed on the scale. Creator of this scale, Dr. Michael Stone, forensic psychiatrist, Columbia University.
My scale helps me navigate the rather turbid waters of violent crime.
But when the killer is unknown, all that can be placed on the scale is the crime itself. Dr. Stone will use his scale to create a profile of the possible killer by reviewing the crimes they have left behind. How will these profiles challenge Dr. Stone's scale as he asks key questions? What does the nature of the crime reveal about the killer? Was the victim tortured? Did the killer leave a message? Can Dr. Stone's scale help reveal the face of evil? June 1945. America breathes a sigh of relief at the end of World War II. But in Chicago, there's a woman killer on the loose. Police find the body of Josephine Ross in her own bed. Her mattress is soaked with blood. Her throat is slashed, and her head is wrapped in a dress. But there is no blood on the body. The victim has been bathed after the murder, and her wounds carefully closed with adhesive tape. A witness saw a man descending a fire escape the day of the murder. The bizarre state of the cleansed and taped corpse is all the police have to go on. After 2 months, they have no suspects and make no arrests. The case goes cold. 6 months later, another victim is found. The body of Frances Brown is found draped over her bathtub. She is nude. Her nightgown is wrapped around her head. She has been shot twice, and a butcher's knife is lodged in her neck. Like Josephine Ross, she has also been bathed after the murder. But this time, the killer left more than a cleansed corpse. Scrawled in lipstick on the wall, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." The way the bodies were cleaned convinces police that one killer is responsible for both crimes. Yet police have no possible suspects. And from the confession on the wall, police fear they now have a serial killer on the loose. Newspapers dub him the Lipstick Killer, and everyone is afraid he will strike again. January 7th, 1946. The parents of 6-year-old Suzanne Degnan find her missing from her bedroom. FBI agents and local police scour the neighborhood for the missing girl. After a matter of hours, An officer discovers what looks to be a doll's head in a sewer basin. Instead, he has just found the first piece of Suzanne Degnan's dismembered body. Parts of the little girl are found scattered throughout the neighborhood sewers. A partial torso is found wrapped in blue pajamas. An autopsy reveals that Suzanne's body was not carelessly cut apart. It is severed at the joints with a surgeon's skill. Chicago police have never witnessed such brutality. Police still have no leads, no potential suspects. Forensic psychiatrist Dr. Michael Stone creates a profile of the unknown killer.
It seems unusual to me that a child killer would be responsible for all the murders, but I can speculate the suspect is surely a man. Looking at the lipstick killings, there are some established patterns that emerge. The most striking of which is the killer's desire to cover up the crime. The washing of the bodies, placing tape over the wounds, hiding limbs of a little girl. It's almost as if he couldn't stand to look at what he'd done. We can assume he suffered an abusive background, with a progression of crimes leading up to something as tragic as dismembering a child. He's a psychopath with a possible schizoid personality. It's for these reasons that I placed the murderer, whoever he was, at level 18 on my scale. Serial murderers that are sexually perverse.
Following the Degnan murder, panic ensues. Parents keep their children inside and lock their doors and windows. Newspapers call the lipstick killer spree the crime of the century. After 6 months, the police finally make an arrest. A 17-year-old named Bill Hirons. A small-time thief with a police record, Hirons is caught breaking into a house in the same neighborhood where Suzanne Degnan was murdered. Bill Hirons is a loner. Accepted early to the University of Chicago, Hirons is a strong student and is studying electrical engineering. He is good with his hands, spending hours taking things apart and putting them back together. But there is another side to Hirons. At age 13, Hirons began to steal. By the time he was 17, he was breaking into apartments, taking people's jewelry, money, and even guns.
Serial killers are not born overnight. There's a gestation period. At first, their crimes appear insignificant, but over time, events escalate. Evil builds on itself.
It takes a month for Bill Hirons to confess to the crimes of the lipstick killer. For his cooperation, Hirons escapes the electric chair, but he is sent to prison for the rest of his life. However, from prison, Hirons claims he is an innocent man. Chicago believes they have caught the lipstick killer. But is this case solved? Dr. Stone travels to the Dixon prison to compare his profile of the possible murderer with the man who has been behind prison walls for the past 60 years. At 77, Hirons has spent more time in an Illinois state prison than anyone else. Is Bill Hirons the lipstick killer? Dr. Stone considers if this case actually remains unsolved.
You confess to killing the 3 women 6 years later. Question now is that something you can say that you did, or something you didn't do?
I'd say absolutely did not do it.
Dr. Stone continues his interview to see if Bill Hirons could match his profile of the killer.
I thought it'd be good to get a little picture as to what your original family was like.
There are arguments, especially where the money was there, but my dad pocketed it and used it for other things.
Did he drink some of it away?
I'm afraid so.
Bill Hirons grows up in a lower middle-class neighborhood in Chicago. His parents struggle with money and fight constantly about his father's drinking. He is a curious but reckless child. His mother once caught Hirons on top of their roof, ready to take flight with homemade paper wings. A boy longing to escape. Because
I understand they sent you to some place, for wayward kids?
Juvenile offenders.
Yeah.
It was a boys' boarding school. You learn from them what you should not be learning.
What did they teach you?
Grabbing purses.
Some people that do those things experience a kind of a rush, a thrill of getting away with it. Is that something that you experienced?
No, I think it was mostly fear. Didn't have that kind of emotion from it. A lot of the times I put back what I took directly into the place where it was taken from.
When I was creating a profile of a possible killer, I was forced to rely on the details of the crime scene. The brutal stabbings, the cleansing